Perek Vav Halacha Gimel. Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah. Ochel matzah b'lo kavona. If you ate matzah without the proper intent, that goyim forced him to eat it, or list him le'echel. So we'll go down to the Peirush. The Peirush we find these are gazonim. For some reason they forced him to eat it. Even though he didn't want to eat it, I guess he wanted to eat it according to the Seder of the Seder. And they forced him to eat it right away. If you ate a kezayis matzah, and this is a fellow who maybe what we call today bipolar, schizophrenic, and he's not normal at the moment. And on the Leil Tezvov, on the 15th day of Nisan, when he was in such a situation that he was not comprehending what he was doing, he ate the matzah. He was hungry. Everybody gets hungry. Animals also get hungry. And afterwards, he became back to his senses. Chayiv. He has to go ahead. After he has to eat after he's healed. Because that eating because that eating was when he was potter from Mikol HaMitzvos, therefore he wasn't Yoetzi Yidei Chavosoi. The Maggid Mishnah cites the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah 28. If somebody was forced to eat matzah, is Yotza. So the Gemara says, who forced him? You can't say that it was a demon, that he somehow something came into his being and forced him to eat it, but without knowledge, because we learned in a brisa that somebody who at times is sick and at times he's well, when he's well, he accomplishes everything that he does. When he's not well, he's an idiot, he's idiotic, then he's in a state of idiocy, then he's a shaita for everything. If that's the case, how could it be that he should fulfill his obligation if a spirit or a demon went into him? He's brought up from mitzvahs, and he didn't keep the mitzvah. Mahavashi, that people who were Persians forced him. Therefore, the Brisa says he's Yotzim. So the Mishnah adds, saw somebody who writes, he's Yotzim since he knows that the night tonight is Pesach and he's asked to eat matzah, even though he didn't intend to be Yotzim, to fulfill his obligation, and he was forced to eat it. But if he felt it was weekday and he ate, or he says it's not matzah, he thought it was something else, he was not yotzeh. So he continues. This Gemara doesn't mention this, but they seem to be logical. They're understood by themselves. And the Maggid Mishnah agrees and says Dover Tameh. The Kesef Mishnah cites in Hilchos Shofar, I wrote, what's the reason the Rambam paskins here that you yotzeh without intent? Because the Mishnah cites in Hilchos Shofar, I explain why the Rambam here paskins without intent, even though usually he's of the opinion that mitzvahs need intent, because this is actually a disagreement in the Gemara in Eruvin 95b, whether if a person who keeps a mitzvah without kavanah, does he fulfill his mitzvah or not? And in Hilchos Shofar, the Rambam paskins that a person is not yotzeh the mitzvah of Shmiras Kol Shofar only if he has intent. So, and the person who blows it also has to have intent to fulfill those who are listening their obligations, because the Rambam is of the opinion that mitzvah needs intent. So you can imagine in the Mishnah there are questions. The Rambam paskins b'shofar that you need intent. Therefore, if he ate matzah without intent, we're going to force him. Why is the Rambam paskin he's yotzeh? And he says, I don't find an answer according to that satisfies me. Now, if that's the correct nusach, but unless we say that the Rambam is of the opinion that eating matzah is different than shofar. Maybe the Rambam is of the opinion since a person does not do an action by shofar, the action is only, what happens is he's listening, and the one who's blowing, the main purpose of his blowing, turn the page, is the mitzvah of listening. He's blowing in order to be able to listen. Therefore, it needs intent, because it can't be an action that we can say without kavanah is yotze. However, we're eating. The fact of the matter is the nutrition is going in. There's no question about that. When he does the mitzvah to an action, the Rambam is of the opinion that even without intent he's yotze. And Rabba is the one who made them equal. Therefore, they said that Rabba would seem to be saying you don't need kavanah, and they didn't. It's not proven from that of matzah, but rather because Rabba made matzah and shofar equal. But the Magen Mishnah says, I'm still not sure that the nusach, which the text that we have of the Rambam is correct, because by matzah we find lo yotza. It would seem from the Rif, and I didn't see who disagreed the differentiations between a mitzvah and a mitzvah in regard to kavanah. If you need kavanah, you need kavanah. If you don't need kavanah, you don't need kavanah. Why should Hilchos Matzah be different? The Ran there in Hilchos Shofar asks again also on the question of the Rambam, and he explains that Shofar you need intent, but when he forced them to eat matzah, since it doesn't say that anyone disagrees on this, because they sent to Shmuel, and he said Yotza. And Rava says this tells us that even if somebody's blowing shofar without intent to blow for the mitzvah, he's Yotza. So the Gemara says, obviously that's it so. If we eat matzah without kavanah Yotza, when you blow, you also Yotza. The Gemara answers, I would think that matzah, the Torah says, go eat it, and he ate it. But here it's basically to remember the trua. In other words, zichron trua is a concept of remembering the shofar at Har Sinai, remembering the concept of Kabbalas HaTorah, and remembering that you have to do tshuva. And he's just sort of like, and he happens to be playing with the shofar. But even though the Gemara to begin with thought that shofar you would be yotze because mitzvahs do not need kavanah, since the Gemara made differentiations between shofar and matzah, the Ran says the halacha is b'tkiyah shofar you're not yotze without intent, but eating matzah you're yotze because your body benefits, and that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. You should eat matzah. As we say in the Gemara by an aveiro, that if somebody has a forbidden relationship or ate chelev, which is not a portion of the animal, which the fats which are not allowed to be eaten, he's liable for penalties because the body has to have benefit, even if he didn't intend to have benefit. Also, Rabbeinu Menuyach brings a steer on the Rambam. That why, if the Persians forced him to eat matzah, he's yotze, because matzahs don't need kavanah. And he brings it to Baal HaMor and the Ravid of the opinion, not like Rabbi Yossi, the Riv, the Paskins, Rabbi Yossi, but the shofar you need kavanah. The mitzvahs need kavanah. I mean, to begin with, Rabbeinu Menuyach is of the opinion that if la halacha there's a mitzvah tzrichas kavanah, a machlokes is whether the mitzvahs need intent or not. The Magen Mishnah says there are goyim that did not say you need kavanah, only karova, like that you don't need intent by a mitzvah. That's what many of the later Rishonim, that means the Rashba and the Ra, also say you don't need intent. Even the Magen Mishnah questions this Rambam's seeming contradiction. How can you say by shofar you need intent? And here he says you don't need intent. And the answer is matzah is different, as was pointed out before, because if you do an avera, you're poter by everything except where the body has benefits, such as eating chelev or having relationships which are forbidden. That you're liable because you benefit. Therefore, you can't say about Hilchos Matzah misaseku, and he's not yotze because he's nene. The general rule is A person that did an Avera, that you need a Chayiv Koros B'Mezid, is B'Shogig is Chayiv Chatos. Because in Shogig he has intent to do the action. Just he doesn't know that the Ma'is is also. If he was Oisik, he's Poto Mechatos and Mikoris. Why? Because Misasik means inadvertently he was doing something else and this happened. He didn't have intent for it. Therefore he's Poto. The only time is we make a differentiation is by treifa fat and incestuous relationships. You're liable even if you had no intent, because the body benefits. And so Rashi says in Rosh Hashanah 28a, when you have benefit, even if you didn't have intent, it's as if you had intent. Therefore, the Halacha, the Rambam is of the opinion that even though by Tkiyah Shofar, without intent, you do not fulfill the mitzvah, because mitzvahs do need intent by eating the matzah, since you benefit, even if he's doing it at a time when he had no intention to do it, there's no stira. And that's what Rabbeinu Menoach says as well. Halacha l'maisa. Shulchan Aruch paskins. If you ate matzah without intent, that goyim forced him or robbers to eat what he has to eat, since he knows that tonight is Pesach and he's chayiv machil matzah, he's yoytze. However, if he thinks it's a weekday or there's no that this is a matzah, he's not yoytze. So Mishnah Berurah asks the question: Halacha mitzvah shiur kavona, as we find the Simon Samach, and here he doesn't want to eat. He doesn't have intended yoytze. And he says that there are those who answer that by eating, since he benefits, in his throat benefits, therefore it's considered like having intent. And he adds, there are those who say there's no difference between eating to other mitzvahs. If he didn't intend with the matzah to be yoytze, he wasn't yoytze. And so says the Pri Chodesh. But Tosfos in the Rosh, going in the Rif, says that the Rif are of the opinion that mitzvahs do not need kavona, and they say this is the source that was sent to Avud Shmuel, that there's no difference between matzah and shofar. Therefore, all mitzvahs do not need kavona. Mechaber paskins b'halacha hey, v'edek zayis matzah, and he is not of sound mind at the time, and then he became of sound mind. He has to eat another matzah afterwards, because that first eating was when he wasn't part of a mitzvahs, and therefore he has not fulfilled his obligation. We're learning now Perek Vav Halacha Daled Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah. The Rambam says Einon Yotzi Yidei Chayvas Achilus Matzah and Kein Ochlom Echad Mechameshes Aminim. You have to eat matzah from one of the 5 types of grain, and we'll go down below to the Peirush, because matzah is made from one of the 5 types of grain, which is wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye. As we follow in the Perek Hey Halacha Aleph, as it says in Dvorim, Chometz. You can't eat chometz. Matzahs. You should eat 7 days matzahs. We therefore connect the two. Only things which become chometz. If they ate it without making it chometz, only the chamish zaminim can become chometz, and therefore you only eat it with them. But other things like oires, rice, and doichen, which is a type of millet, and kidneys, which is beans, and you can't be yotzim matzah, even if you made it look like a matzah and it tastes like a matzah, but it's not made of the 5 grains. It can't become chometz. The Maggid Mishnah cites this in the Mishnah in the Gemara Psochim 35a. Lamaisa Shulchan Aruch paskins. The only things that you're eligible to fulfill your obligation of matzah is in wheat, and in barley, and in oats. No, spelt. I said wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye. And the Ramah adds that the meaning is to take wheat, even though any of the five are okay. And the Mishnah Berurah explains, because a person likes wheat more so, that bread made out of wheat rather than anything else. And there's also because of the Hidur Mitzvah, because it's a better bread. He adds further, if he doesn't have wheat, he should take from the other four, whichever one is the best tasting for him, so he should eat it with desire. Mechaber continues, but not rice or other types of vegetables, beans that can be made into bread, because they do not become chametz. Stop here.